Okay. So hello everyone, myself Pooja Kachola, and today we are going to discuss about the one of the factor which influence on learning a motor skill. I always passionate about finding a best way to optimize patient's recovery. There are many factors which can influence on learning. Motor learning is an important psychophysiological process that is essential to learn either a novel motor skills or to relearn lost motor skill in case of neurological disorder. To learn anything we need information, right? But that information should be in a way that it can give optimal result. To get optimal result, what we need optimal information, not more than that, neither or less. This information can be in any form. So today we will discuss one of the way to optimize learning. So our topic for discussion, as we can see on the screen, is influence of practice conditions in enhancing motor learning. Okay. So first there is a learning objectives. So description of practice conditions, types of practice condition, and how it influence in motor learning, or we can say the clinical implication of that. Now the introduction. Uh, yes, the introduction. Okay. So practice condition, what it means. This might be a new word, right? So let's be familiar with it. As in our daily clinical practice, what we usually prefer to make patient learn a particular motor skill is we ask them to perform a skill repetitively so they can learn. Okay. So practice condition is similar to that, but there is minor difference between these two things. We sometimes missed out a little thing or little information that can make a huge difference in outcome. So Mark, which is one of the researcher in the field of motor learning, so Mark suggests that the practice condition is generally considered to be the single most important factor responsible for the permanent improvement in the ability to perform a motor skill. So the practice condition is the condition under which the task is practiced will make the task either more or less difficult to perform, thereby defining its a functional level of difficulty on the practice trial. So we are giving any task to perform it. It should be under optimal condition. So by that we can get optimal result. Okay, so for a century, researchers have studied means by which practice condition can be structured so that they maximize the potential for learning. Motor learning is determined during the retention phase. The usual way of assessing retention is to have an individual perform a practice motor skill after certain time interval of no practice. So the condition it give better retention is obvious good. Okay, so here now we can see the definition. So definition of practice condition is a optimized condition or environment in which tasks should be performed to get optimal retention. Okay, so here the many types of practice conditions are there. The practice condition it in the pairs. Each practice condition is opposite to the pair. So random versus blocked practice condition, variable versus constant practice condition, masked versus distributed practice condition, guided versus discovery condition, and part versus whole practice condition. Okay, so now we'll move towards the first two practice conditions. Okay, so first two practice condition is random versus blocked and variable versus constant. So let's go. Let's see definition first. Okay, so blocked practice in which all the trials of a given task are completed before moving on to the next task in a one day. Okay, in blocked practice there is a pre-decided fixed set of blocks are there. Okay, and in random there is no fixed schedule or no fixed sequence are there. Okay, so let's see one example first. So here we have one example of a lady, of a female who is having difficulty in right upper limb and lower limb. So here we can see that she's performing one task of upper limb, and then there is one block in which there is a three activity for upper limb. First one is bidet, second one is this activity, and third one is water pouring activity. Okay, after this upper limb block, she is performing upper limb block for one time, and then she moves towards the next block lower limb block. In lower limb, sit to stand activity and hurdle walking. So here we can see that she performed upper limb activity than lower limb activity. There is a particular block for upper limb and lower limb activity. So in block we have to complete upper limb block first, then and then only we can move towards lower limb. But in case of random, we can do any task, like first upper limb task, then one lower limb task, again two upper limb tasks, and likewise. Like in this example, what we can do is first we can ask a patient to do pouring activity, then asked to do a hurdle walking. So it can be classified into random practice conditions. Okay. So now researchers have suggested that the task with a differing level of nominal difficulty, the advantage of random practice for learning will be largest for task of a lowest nominal difficulty and smallest for task of highest nominal difficulty. So here is connected by level of difficulty of task and learning, which will be seen in other presentations of my colleague. Then for individuals with a differing skill levels, low levels of contextual interference will be better for beginning skill levels, and higher level of contextual interference will be better for more highly skilled individuals. Okay, so another two scientists, McGill and Hall's study shows that contextual interference is a learning phenomena wherein the interference caused due to practicing different tasks within the same practice session proved to be beneficial. So now the question is, which one is better, right? So we need to see patient's present situation and need to decide that in present which task a person can do and at which level of task difficulty. So initially we cannot assume to give extreme level of task difficulty, yet it can improve performance, but not learning. And we are here to make them learn, not perform, right? So now the next practice conditions, okay, for theoretical basis and to connect this example or conditions with theory, we will see after completion of variable versus constant practice condition. Okay. So here we can see the title, that variable and constant practice. So first, what it means? Constant means we are not changing the any parameter of task. Partial and temporal parameter will remain same for the whole practice. But each variable practice, we are changing the parameters to learn. Okay. So now let's see one example in second slide. Okay, so here we can see that one lady is here and she is performing a hurdle walking. Okay, so here there is a fixed set of hurdles are there. When she came back, there is no changes in hurdles. But in second situation, we can see that one she completed one time, then therapist changed the hurdles. As we can see in the screen, that she is changing the hurdle. So when she came back, she don't know where the hurdles is and how they changed. So it is new for that particular patient and it is new. It can create a new scheme. Okay, so here what happens is uh, when we change the hurdles, the spatial and temporal parameters can also be changed. When she need to overcome that hurdle, time when hurdle came. Okay, so that all things, how much distance to complete the task, that thing she need to learn in the initial stage. So now let's see according to theory. Okay, so according to Adams closed loop theory, when we acquire a movement, a perceptual representation for the movement is formed, with each separate movement having an associated representation stored in a memory. And according to open loop schema therapy theory, would suggest that no single action within a class of action should be any more refined than others within the same task. And instead of a single memory representation for a single action within a class, one generalized motor representation or program is produced. Okay, it is suggests that learning is affected not only by the extent of practice, but by the variability of practice. Thus, with increased variability of practice, the generalized motor programs rule were made stronger. So, what it means, or we can say what its clinical implication for this. Let's talk in terms of example what we saw before. Okay, so we have example of walking or upper limb activity. Okay, so in daily life, whatever the challenges come in front of a person cannot be predicted. Okay, so specialization in only one type of task is not useful in daily life activity, right? We need variety of movement, variety of tasks. We cannot say that I learned only surface walking, so I won't be able to walk on uneven surface, or or we cannot say that I won't be able to walk on road, right? Optimal learning will occur if this task is practiced under many different conditions. This will allow her to develop a set of rules, set of schema for walking on a different surface. As she practiced sensory information about the initial condition and consequences of her walk, will use to form a recognition schema, which will be used to evaluate the accuracy of different surface walk. Okay, as we need it, different practice conditions is essential to forming accurate recall and recognition schema. Right, practice in random scheduled and variety of tasks can produce generalized motor schema. Okay, so when person faces different challenges in terms of environment, so it can help to recall and recognize the movement to fulfill the task. So I hope this information is useful for you, right? It can help you to uh, improve your patient's learning, right? Okay, so here is the references in which I took the reference, and then thank you so much.